Hey everybody, this is Andrea Jenson from the Cash Flow CFO, and you're listening to the Cash Flow CFO Podcast, the show that explores the financial side of running a business for people who want to maximize profitability and scale with confidence. If you want to make smart financial decisions based on data and put more of your hard-earned profits into your pocket, this is the podcast for you. This episode of the Cash Flow CFO podcast is brought to you by the Cash Flow CFO. Did you know that on average, business owners have up to 84% of their personal net worth tied up in their business? Our virtual CPAs and CFOs, as well as accounting and bookkeeping experts, empower business owners just like you to make big leaps that help them maximize profitability and scale with confidence. Visit thecashflowcfo.com for more information, and thank you for listening. Hey everyone, it's Andrea, and our guest for today is Mandi Ellefson. Mandi is the founder of Hands Off CEO. She and her team scale million-dollar consulting agencies with less reliance on the CEO. That sounds dreamy. She helps them first generate more cash to scale with an irresistible offer that's easier to sell and attracts clients that pay 50 to 600% higher in fees in 90 days or less. Then Mandi helps the CEO free up time to focus on up to half of their work week on accelerating profits. Mandi is a published author of the Hands Off CEO and a host of the Hands Off CEO podcast. In her free time, she loves to travel, mountain bike, and go on outdoor adventures with her husband and two sweet girls. Welcome to the show, Mandi.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrea.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm excited to have you here because you're the CEO's counterpart, the CFO's counterpart, working on helping free up that CEO to really understand and grow their business and scale it. And I think there's so much of an overlap and intersection of the services that we provide and the way that we support scaling business owners. So I'm excited to chat about that. But before we dive into that, I'd love to know a little bit more about you and your business, and how did you get started in supporting CEOs to free up time and maximize profits?
So how I got started in this was an accident. I had an agency and I had got to a point where we were kind of the top level of success we've gotten in this company. It was very dependent on me. And I was also very pregnant with my second daughter, with a 4-year-old to care for as well, with my husband in a graduate medical program across the country by myself, pretty much taking care of all these things and my business was not taking care of me. And in fact, it was actually making me quite sick. And so I had this dream of having a company that could generate income for me even when I'm not there, because that's what a business is supposed to do. And I had been trying to build my company this way, and I couldn't figure out how to make this work. I had made this work in a different company that I had been a manager of. I've been able to streamline that company. I got it so profitable, but it didn't apply with the company that I owned. And I didn't really understand why. And I was really quite frustrated about it too. So in order to have maternity leave, I just pretty much shut my business down at a time when we really could have used the income, right? We were racking up student debt, as you can imagine how that goes. And so I had to just shut things down for a while. And it was a good opportunity to me to really think about where I wanted to take things next. And so I went and I did a lot of testing to really understand what was going on. So I started to interview other CEOs to find out what was going on to start understanding the problem. So then I started helping them because I could see what the problem was. I was a good problem solver. So I knew if I solved their problem, I'd be able to solve my own. So I started doing that. And then people wanted to start paying me to do that. So before I knew it, I had started another company, and it is now what is Hands Off CEO. My other company, I realized I had grown past that. And I sold it to one of the staff members that was working for me at the time. She's still running it today, 12 years later. So that's how I got into it, and now we've been able to create a lot of cool things in that time period and helped a lot of CEOs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I think what's really worth pointing out is for a lot of us entrepreneurs, we can solve other people's problems, but we have a hard time sometimes solving our own because we're so close to them. That's why it's always great to bring in an outside perspective, or like you did, the test. That's the best way. I love that. That's the scientific brain stepping in there and figuring it out.
Absolutely. Yes. That was exactly that part of the brain I was using.
Yep. Love it. And fast forward. You guys have created some amazing results for a lot of the agency owners that you work with. Tell us a little bit about how you support them and the services that you guys provide.
Yeah. So how we support them is to be able to help them be able to create a business that they're actually excited about scaling. So a lot of times they come to us and they're at a point where they could be working 50, 60, 70 plus hours per week. They could be in denial about that too. They could be thinking they're working a normal work week. And when they actually realize it, their spouse will usually be able to tell us how much they actually work. But they can be in denial about how much they're working. And it's not such a big deal that they're working that many hours in many of their cases. It's just the challenge is that they're doing work that they don't want to be doing. They're getting stuck in the day-to-day minutia. The company is like all the growth is dependent on them. And even as they're going and hiring these people in their team, they're still not able to deliver services at the level that the clients need them to be at. So then the CEO just kind of gets stuck in all the different pieces of the company, and it just becomes this monster that even as you staff up, even when you bring in management, you still find yourself stuck in the day-to-day of this. And this simple adage of, well, you just need to delegate, you just need to hire better people, you just need to work on your business instead of in them. All these really basic kind of things that we all know we need to do, they're not actually able to do it. And I think that you're going to be really interested. I think your audience will be interested to be looking at this because it's very connected to what you're actually talking about here on the CFO podcast, the Cash Flow. Did I say that right? Cash Flow CFO Podcast? Saying it all over.
I know. There's a lot of CEOs, CFOs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think 100% what you're saying is spot on. And what's happening is they're building themselves into the model of the business, and you cannot scale that. No. And so therefore it's just this cycle, right? This vicious circle that they just keep going in, where they want to hire, they want to delegate, but they haven't put systems in place to facilitate that. And to have the checks and balances too, right? If I delegate it, how do I know it's being done right? And what that's doing is it's ultimately limiting the value of that business. God forbid they get sick or they have to exit the business, i.e. sell it, right? And if it's a business that's dependent on the owner to function, whether that's in sales, business development, delivery, you name it, that business has no transferable value. And all that hard work and years that they've put into building it is worthless, essentially.
Essentially, yeah, definitely. I've seen it so many times. And you mentioned about systems, and that's the thing that everybody knows they need to put into place systems. But the problem is what systems do you actually need? And you can build. And this is actually one of the most common things that we hear from CEOs who are like, this sounds interesting, but you know what? We just need to build all these systems. We'll talk to you. Let's look at this later on. And we're going to build out some systems on our team. And it seems reasonable, except for we'll go and talk to them a year later and they'll say the exact same thing. We need to build out more systems. So the problem is that, yes, you need systems, but you need the right systems that are built upon the right offers. And if you don't have the right offers, you're not going to have enough profit to be able to actually hire the right people to remove yourself from this. So really at the core of this, the issue in the operations and the profitability within the operations all comes down to having an offer that has the price point that actually can deliver and having an offer that has enough value with a high enough price point that you actually have the ability to actually fund the growth in your company.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%. 100%. We see that. And this is why I was so excited to have this conversation with you, and the intersection of, you're looking at it from one angle, we're looking at it from another, but it's the same exact thing at the end of the day. And you've got to be able to be pricing your products and services with enough margin that it covers the other parts of the business, right? So, you look at the delivery of what it is that you're selling. And I love you said the value too, because that's something that is an intangible component to it. But you have to find that sweet spot on the pricing so that, when you deliver it, you still have plenty of resources left to staff the support team, the non-direct expenses of the business, and the marketing and the profit. If you have debt, the business has to service the debt. Where does that come out of? It comes out of the profit. So there's a lot of ways to take this apart and break it down. But I think what you're talking about is that very front end piece that is so critical to a company where the owner is trying to be able to hire the team. So he or she is not doing all of the doing.
Right. Well, and here's the problem is that so many issues with scaling, everyone looks at operations, and the operations are it's just the glue that holds everything together. But really what you need to be looking at is the very front piece, that how are you positioning your services in the market? What are the kind of transformations that you're providing? So if you're not providing transformations, you're providing commodity services, and commodity services you cannot command a very high price point for. And then on top of that, you take into consideration inflation. You take into consideration the very high cost of labor that continues to go up and up. And I'm talking about even separate from inflation. This is on top of that. And you talk about all the regulation, the increases in taxes. We're talking about all these different pressures that are coming on businesses right now. And if you don't have a way that you can competitively position your services that you can charge a great deal more, then you got to find another way to be able to deliver with a margin that might be that you're delivering it with software. It might be, and I actually would recommend both, but you get it really dialed in first to the point where you can automate it with 80% of it with good people, like good quality skilled people. And then the 20% of it, you're doing more customized. And that might be the CEO that's involved in the customization for a while. And we have clients that have $1 million services, $1 million per year services. That's 90% process driven. And it's 10% based upon customization. They didn't get to being able to charge $1 million for their services by breaking everything down just into systems to doing everything like everyone else. And that's what the typical way of scaling is. And the problem is there's just no profit left over when you operate that way. And I have a lot of data to back that up too, if you want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love to, because you work with a lot of businesses, and you're on the front lines of seeing. And I think some of the symptoms of that, right, is where they think, oh, I'm either really profitable, and they're not, because they're not counting profit correctly. Yep. What are some of the other symptoms that you see of a business scaling it the way that you were just explaining?
Well, the first thing, like you're mentioning, is that the numbers say everything, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they don't know what the real numbers are. So you might hear, oh yeah, we have a 20% profit margin, but then when you actually take into consideration that they're paying themselves $60,000 a year, including dividends and all of that, that's how much they're making. You realize that they should be making at least $100,000 more for the level of skill set they have if they were going to go be an employee, and on top of benefits and all that. So when you actually look at the percentages, they could actually be losing money. Mm-hmm. And absolutely, as profit, it doesn't mean they still could have a pretty good business, and that's kind of an example of an extreme example. They could be making $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year, but if they should be making $400,000, that is like a gap, and the company may not be nearly as profitable as they think. I just wanted to make that distinction.
Yeah, and I think too, what's really important in pointing out there too is that the whole goal of scaling a business is to ultimately exit it at a high price at some point in the future. And if you're not training your business model to replace yourself, like say you're the owner and you're doing that exact thing, right? You should be if you had to replace yourself, if you would have to pay in the market $400,000 to fill that role, then that's what you should be training the business to do. And then you count, okay, now I'm profitable. So whether or not you're taking that cash out of the business, or, you're putting it to like a loan to the owner, however you want to categorize it, the profitability of that business model has to reflect the market value of the market, what you would pay if you had to hire that role, And I think that's a really big one that business owners they miss. And then they do go to exit their business, and all of a sudden, the valuation keeps getting knocked down because you have to transfer the value of what you're providing as a business. And if it costs that much to do it, then it costs that much to do it. So I think that's very, very important to just kind of call it out and bring some awareness around it.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the symptoms, you brought that up. And one of the other pieces is that the team's not really driving things forward. So the team may be engaged. They may be doing exactly what you're asking them to do, and maybe a little more than that. But one of the things that we see is that the leaders are not really leading. The leaders are following, is really what they're doing. They're following, they're waiting for instruction. And you really have to generate that in your team. And you really need to, and one of the biggest pieces missing is that there's not really a compelling vision that is driving everyone forward. And part of that vision actually is, what is the impact that we're making in the market? How are our services transforming our clients? You just simply cannot scale a company and be able to retain talent without being on a mission, without being there to do something big. And if you can bake that into what you're doing with your clients, your clients will pay a lot more. You'll have a shorter sales cycle because they actually see the transformation that you can create for them. And this is something that we do with what we call an irresistible offer. And with this irresistible offer, we help them get really clear on what is this positioning. I'll just give a really quick example of one that we saw today, actually. Through this irresistible offer cohort, we take our clients through to be able to help them find where that positioning is, who that profit sweet spot client is. And one of our clients, they were looking. He has a marketing agency, and they're more of like a technology type of company. And they're looking at, we give peace of mind to our clients. And when you're looking at peace of mind for clients, they're paying not a bad fee for that. But you're leaving a lot of money on the table if, and not only that, relying on the referrals, because referrals will pay for peace of mind, because the person who referred them said, hey, you know what? Working with them, it saved us a lot of money. We were actually able to make some good money from this. So that will sell it, right? But it's still dependent on the CEO, all of these things, right? But when we looked at what is the real value that we could create here, what could you actually do? And one of those pieces that we considered here, and we're still in the earlier stages, and I'm not going to say which industries or anything, because this would be sharing too much information about it. But we could open up a whole new stream of income that could add another $20 million to this company. So when you're looking at your service, that hey, we're going to be able to add $20 million to your company over the next, let's say 5, how many years you're going to decide? Maybe it's 2 years. That's a completely different conversation than peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yet so many service companies are trained to be selling things like peace of mind, things like, we're going to be that extra set of hands. We're going to be able to, we bring an expertise that you don't have. And that's great. You can add some markup to that, but that's a really hard company to scale. It requires a lot of expertise, and it's just, you don't have a lot of built-in scale mechanisms around it. And it's not very exciting either.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the difference between these services, how much more can you charge for them? Well, if I was looking at that, at least 4 times higher price point, at least.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's that intangible piece, right? That's the value that you're creating. And so it's layering in, here are my actual hard costs, and then here's the value I'm creating for that, right, to set those price points.
And here's the great thing about that too. Let's say that they're not charging 4 times when it's actually worth that. Maybe they're charging like 3 times or charging twice as much. Now, let's say that it actually costs them more to deliver the service. They could actually increase the cost to deliver the services and still be a lot more profitable. I mean, I don't have to tell you this. I'm preaching to the choir here.
Yeah, right. No, absolutely.
So what it means is that you can deliver a higher quality service.
Mm-hmm.
You can pay more to deliver a service, which when you can pay more to deliver a service, what that means is that you can pay better people to do the service. It means you can acquire better talent. It also means if you have margin, now you actually have someone, you can actually pay to have someone sell this for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is not built in to the service, the cost of selling, now the CEO has an extra job.
Mm-hmm.
They have to sell it. Not only because they're the only ones who can sell it, but they can't afford there's a pretty high cost of selling it. And I think a lot of companies don't realize what it actually takes to be able to set aside the money to market the service, to generate the business, to be able to sell the service and actually properly service the account in a way that the quality is really astounding. And without that, the CEO is filling in the gaps of everything.
Start scaling with confidence today. The Cash Flow CFO is a full-service accounting and fractional CFO firm. So it goes without saying that our financial experts are phenomenal at number crunching. But more than that, they are expert communicators who will connect all those complicated financial dots in a way that just makes sense. We don't wait in the wings and check in every so often either. With our boutique approach, we position ourselves front and center, watching over every dollar that comes in and out of your business as if it was our own. So if your business is making money and you're ready to take it to the next level, but you're not sure you completely understand your numbers, and you're looking for that trusted guide to help you build a roadmap to reach your financial goals, it sounds like we would be a great fit. Visit thecashflowcfo.com and let's get started empowering you to build and scale your business the way you want to today.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about that whole thing that you just laid out is that all goes back to their business model, right? The irresistible offer is that driving force in that business model. All the other components, they come behind it, but you have to have that price point, number one, that you can sell on repeat. Because I think that's the other thing too, is that, a lot of business owners get trapped into what they call the dancing bear, or, if they're not out there drumming up the sales, it doesn't happen. And you've got to have that offer that, like you said, somebody else can sell for you. And it's not so technically specific that somebody else can't sell it. Because I think that's the other trap that businesses fall into with their business model.
Right. Well, and I like what you said about selling on repeat, and because when you are that dancing bear and you're everything to everyone, first of all, you can't build a sales process around that, and secondly, if you are the dancing bear, who's dancing once the sale is made? Mm-hmm. The CEO, right? They're expected to. So there's but how do you be able to sell on repeat in a way that it doesn't just occur to your client as being a commodity type of service? Because usually what happens is when you get a service to sell on repeat, it actually waters it down so that you can actually make it scalable. And what we have found is that you can accomplish both if you narrow down and niche down in 2 different ways. One is around a really painful problem. And we're talking like $1 million problem. Like, you don't want to solve anything less than $1 million type of problems because you just simply can't get paid enough to be able to pay for your operations. And the second piece is the profit sweet spot client. So that profit sweet spot client. So who is now, what is the right type of client that you can add the very best type of value for, that you can be paid the most for, and that are also going to be motivated? And that's where that problem comes in. So having the right problem you're solving and the right profit sweet spot client. And I'm not talking about an industry. I'm talking about a client type within an industry. And when you're really that clear on it, then you can make much bolder statements and much bigger promises about the kind of work that you do. Like, for us, for example, at Hands Off CEO, we help companies be able to triple their lifetime client value, find 10 extra hours per week to spend focusing on growth, and unlock millions of dollars of growth in their company, millions of dollars of profitable growth. We can't do that for everyone, but because we've narrowed down into a particular problem set and a specific type of client, we can do that. And we can do that on repeat. And we can staff up in a really good quality way. And we can deliver the service without me being there with every different piece, which means that the clients actually get better service. It's more consistent. And it's not dependent on if I'm having a bad day or not, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. So let me just be the listener who's going, yeah, but I'm afraid if I niche down too far, because I'm sure you hear this all the time. If I niche down, then I'm going to leave money on the table, or I'm going to miss out on other sales, and maybe in a different industry, or even a little wider of a net in that same industry.
It's a great question. So first of all, if it's in the industry, you're defining a profit sweet spot client and deciding where exactly you're going to be going out and finding the right type of clients. That's not the same thing as saying we're not going to work with anyone outside of this. You're just defining what your positioning and your messaging is. And I mean, for example, we work with primarily companies that are in the low seven figures. That's primarily where we're working with. Sometimes a little bit lower than that, and we also have clients that are in the multiple eight figures too. So it's not that we're not working with companies outside of that, but we have a really clear message. I mean, I wrote a whole book that's targeted specifically for the journey to scale from 1 to 10 million. So by doing that, it really resonates and lands. And then you can pick and choose who you want to work with outside of that. But if you have a strategy that's built around attracting your profit sweet spot client, and those clients are way more profitable than the other clients, why would you want to fill up your capacity with clients that aren't a good fit, that are going to be a pain in the butt, that is going to require more of the CEO to deliver? I mean, you don't have to fire those clients, but what we find is that the consulting companies and agencies that we work with tend to fire them because they realize these other clients they could be generating twice as much profit with. So why would they be working with the other ones?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But I will add one thing on that.
Yeah.
Is that it really comes down to what kind of business do you want to run? Do you want to do you want to grow a company that's going to be able to grow beyond you, that you can sell, to your point, Andrea? Mm-hmm. Or do you want to have a company that is going to stay stuck in the same place? And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want this lifestyle business, but just own that that's what you want to create and optimize that to be as simple as you possibly can make it to fit your goals within that. But don't say that you want to scale a company and continue doing all the insane things you've been doing before and expecting to have different results. Sorry if that was too bold.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree, because it's okay to have either, right? And you have to be honest with yourself. Like, what are you doing this for? And if you decide that you want to scale this company beyond yourself, you have to be disciplined. And that's where the discipline comes in, because I think you're going to find yourself saying no more than you find yourself saying yes if you're truly scaling a business, because you have to just stay tight to, this is what works. This is and that is not just in this piece of the part of the business, right? That's in every layer of your business. You have to understand and stay disciplined to hold your boundaries, and also, the shiny object syndrome is real. And so, stay on that path to repeatable processes, repeatable results, because you're bringing in the right people in the funnel in the beginning. Right.
Well, the other thing too is I don't know if you found this, Andrea, but it doesn't have to be like overnight. It's a transition. Mm-hmm. But it really requires being very intentional about what you're creating. And you can't just sit around and wait for it to rain, AKA just whether people refer you or not. and expect to be able to grow your company from that. You have to have a way that you're very intentionally creating growth, driving growth. And you can't drive growth being everything to everyone and hope to scale it without you being in the middle of everything.
So true. That is 100% true. We went through that with our business where we were like, oh, we're 100% referral only. That's great. That's great. And then all of a sudden, when, we started to get more narrow on who we wanted to serve and who we got the best results for, well, not every referral was that. And so all of a sudden we were turning people away that weren't that perfect, not perfect, but the right businesses for us to really be able to get those results for them. And so all of a sudden we had to go out and, okay, now we need to be in control of our lead flow versus waiting for it to come in. And that was a shift that we had to do, because I thought, oh, how great, we're referral only. We have so many clients that love us. They just keep referring. And when it, the rubber hit the road, we had to make some shifts. And I think that was one of the big ones that we did.
Well, good for you guys, because I know that your company is very unique in your space, because there's, CFO type of companies, companies in the finance space, we don't work with many in this space because they're not very innovative. Most of them are the number crunchers. They are, they're the peace of mind people. They're not really that growth partner. And I know that's how you guys operate with your clients. And it's a very different lens and a way that you can position. And here's the thing is like, that is actually, it's one of the best ways that you can be working with an advisor actually who has that really strong financial background, because it's where everything intersects. So I love that you guys have that positioning. And again, there are just not enough companies in your space that are approaching it that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of our clients, they come to us and they're used to working with finance professionals that just shoot down every idea. Oh, you can't do that because of this, and this. And I said, oh no, that's definitely not the way we're going to operate. We're going to say, sure, you can do that. Here's what it looks like. Here's the investment of time, resources. Now go make a decision. Does that still sound like something you want to do? But who are we to shoot them down and try and contain the growth? So we definitely have that growth mindset, and we're all about it. At the end of the day, your business is the biggest asset that you will own, and it can create the biggest value and the biggest payday when you go to exit it. Mm-hmm. So, the more you can do to strengthen the valuation of your company, the stronger you can get your EBITDA. Heck yeah, it makes everything so much better. And you have to be creative and you have to try things in order to achieve that. And, we're here to say, yep, bring me your ideas. We'll test them. We'll run the what if scenarios. We'll flow out that projection and see, does it make sense? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But it's good to have that sounding board and someone with that mindset to take it through all the way, to give you all the data points to make a good decision.
Right. Well, and what that sounds like, Andrea, is that you guys are like the person for the CEO to share these ideas with, and you're going to say, okay, is this feasible or not? And like actually show the data say, this is kind of a crazy idea. You don't even have to tell them it's a crazy idea. The numbers just say that, right? But also, I know that we have seen a number of companies that we have worked with, or more likely not worked with, actually, who their CFO, I'm putting that in quotes because it's just someone who is overtitled. And a lot of these companies are way, way, way too early to be having a full CFO function in their company. They really need a company like yours to come in who has the level of skills and expertise that you can get far beyond what you could for the budget at a smaller size. Because well, anyway, what I see is that in order for them to kind of prove their value and worth, they basically just say no to everything so that they can preserve profit in the company. They just pull out the scissors and just cut, which is actually completely undermining the company. And if you I'm just going to say, anyone, if you have that kind of person in your company right now, they're probably pulling the wool over your eyes and making you think that they're doing way more than they think. If this is a person who is doing operations and all these other pieces, maybe they're doing a good job. More likely they're not. Mm-hmm. So I'd be curious with you, Andrea, what stages are you finding that they graduate out of that next place?
Yeah. I love that you said overtitled, because I see that as such a problem with business owners. They hand out titles and they don't know what they mean. They set precedents for pay scales and all the things that just end up coming back and biting them in the butt. So that's one thing. Yes, that's a really
number of roles, right? Not just the CFO role. It's all over the place. With operators big times to COOs, like all the time we see that.
Yep. And from a finance perspective, when you're trying to scale a company and you give someone a title like that and they go shop it and they go, oh, well, this is what people at this title are making. I need a raise. And you're like, whoa. And it just ends up biting them so many ways. But back to your original question. So I think, a company that is at $1 million in revenue, that has several revenue streams, they need a strong controller and the fractional CFO role, right? Because at that point, it's where you have to make some decisions. Because I think to get to $1 million in revenue, you're still testing a lot of offers. You're testing the delivery of those, the scalability of it, just all of those things. When you get to that $1 million mark and you go, okay, I'm ready to go to the next level, that's really where you have to tighten it up and create repeatable processes, repeatable results. And you have to more often than not weed out some of the clients that, in the beginning, you'll take anyone that'll pay you because you're still testing. You don't know what's your right exact business model that's going to keep you growing. And so that's really where I think, if I understand your question correctly, that's where they need that fractional CFO to come in and do all of that analysis on, the profit per revenue stream. Check your pricing compared to how much it's costing you to deliver it. What % of revenue does it cost you to deliver what you're selling? And is that giving you enough margins to cover, bringing in new clients, your different marketing activities, to cover your glue that holds the business together, your operations, and covering any debt servicing, things that your profits are going to have to be allocated for. So that's really where, you have to, the business has to grow up a little bit and make some, it's not always the funnest spot to be in, moving through that process, but that's what sets up the business to be able to scale and grow to that next level of revenue.
Well, and if I may say, I remember when our company hit that level, and I remember and it was actually just even a little bit before that. And I remember coming to my accountant at the time and I said, okay, I know that there's some things that I don't know here. And what I need you to do is I need you to help me put together a checklist of what are the things that I need to be doing throughout the year. And what are these pieces? What should I be watching out for? And really what it turned out is that he didn't know. He couldn't tell me what those things were because he was a tax accountant. So that was something that I learned very quickly, that first of all, tax accountants are great because they're going to save you money on your taxes. I don't know if that's a service that you guys do or not, but it's a totally different service than what you're talking about. And I also don't trust a tax accountant to take care of the books, because they're going to take care of the books for Uncle Sam. They're not going to take care of the books in the way that I need to see it to be able to see the chart of accounts the way I want it broken down. It's not, and they're also not going to be able to educate you on the things that you need to be understanding from a financial perspective as you're growing your company. And I'm assuming, Andrea, that's some of the work that you guys do with your clients, is that your clients develop a higher level of financial acumen just through working with you.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. So I think what most business owners get confused or mixed up on is that, if you're a CPA, there's different tracks that you're going to specialize in. majority of CPAs that support small businesses are on the tax track, because if you're in audit or any other track, you're working for a big corporation that needs that service. Most small businesses don't know they need that. They don't know it exists. And so they're always talking to their tax preparer. And exactly like you said, the tax preparer has a different way of setting up the chart of accounts. They're not looking at it from a profitability per revenue stream. They're not looking at it from a staff utilization. They're not looking at it from capacity planning. They're not looking at it from, hey, I need to be able to go out and secure funding next year because I want to reinvest back into the business to hit that next level of revenue growth. So they're not going to make sure your books look as profitable as possible. They're going to make sure they save you as much in taxes as possible, and your books aren't going to look great to a banker. So you really have to have both. You need both on the team, but just understand that they both have very different outcomes, desired outcomes that they're trying to help you achieve. And if you're not telling your tax preparer, hey, in the next 1 year, I want to do this. In the next 3 years, I want to do this. In the next 5 years, I want to do this. Well, they're just going to do the standard operating of what they do, not knowing that you want to buy a house in whatever, or an investment property, or, whatever it may be that you're planning on doing. And so oftentimes it ends up you don't qualify because they've saved you. They've done their job so well. But to your point, you need the right person in the right role and with the right skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I'll just put one more plug in for using a fractional CFO service like your company is a really good thing to do in the earlier 7 figures in the company. And if you try to have a full-time person who's doing too many things in your company, what I have seen happen is that they go and to try to prove their value, they go completely overboard for more than what you need for, $1 million company. And they try to put in the pieces that you need for a much more robust company. And I've seen companies like this where the CFO is going and they have like pages and pages of all this just totally irrelevant information. And I asked them this one really important data point that they didn't have. And this is also a company that, by the way, was not profitable. They were losing money. And in a matter of 3 months, we were able to help them increase their net profit 40%.
Wow.
And that was because we got focused on the right things with fewer data points, simple, and not over complicating everything.
I love that you said that, because overcomplicating a business is the opposite of being able to scale it.
Yes.
The simpler your model is, the simpler, your data is, everything along those lines, the more successful you're going to be at scaling it. And I'm sure you see this all the time when you're trying to help them get clear on, all the pieces that you touch, Mandi, in your business are so, so, so important, because those are the ones that, like, you can scale a financial model, but when the rubber hits the road and you actually have to deliver it with real live human beings, it's a different conversation.
It is. And, that's actually really where our work goes hand in hand, because, we can help people drive those changes. And sometimes it can be quite frustrating because our main, it's outside of the scope of our expertise to be helping them track internally how these profits are actually changing. We can model this for them, but they're not actually seeing how much profit is it being increased because it gets eaten up and them going and hiring other people. So they're becoming more profitable, but it can be very difficult to actually see the changes that are being made. You can see the growth, but you have to see it through. And that's one of the things about, you kind of have to have the faith to be able to keep investing in the company and to keep seeing progress, but having the positivity to be watching and observing all the good things that are happening. Because that's one of the things that we've seen. And I know you guys are so good at being able to help track that and be able to actually show the progress made about that. But that is something that, but you do have to see through the actual drivers of the change before you see that before you see all the numbers come to fruition. That's going to happen, 6 months down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think the risk tolerance, business owners don't They underestimate the tolerance that they have to reinvest back in their business for growth.
Yes.
And that's where they stop midway through a plan, and then they go, oh, this didn't work. Or, they just can't stomach it, right? Because it's the messy middle, right? For lack of a better term, that you've got to go through to get to that end result. That sometimes, it's not always a straight line. Well, actually, it's never a straight line. It's a this,
Right.
But having a solid plan and a solid team and tracking the right metrics, which is what you help them do from the operational side. And gosh, getting that CEO out of the way, because most of the time it's usually the CEO that's bottlenecking. Business.
Yeah.
Yep. Guilty. I've been there, done that. So
we all have.
Yep. It's part of the learning process for sure. Well, Mandi, this has been such a great conversation. I could talk all day long about growing and scaling companies with you. Tell our listeners how they can learn more about your company and the services that you offer.
Okay. Well, anyone who's listening, if you want to hear more about this whole process, I wrote it all in the book, The Hands-Off CEO. Triple your fees and profitably scale an exceptional consulting agency that grows without you. So you can find that on Amazon, The Hands-Off CEO. If you would like to download a scalability checklist that shares the exact steps in which order to be able to exit yourself out of the company to reduce risk and to be able to really optimize the growth that you can have for right where you're at right now, you can go to handsoffceo.com/checklist and download our scalability checklist, which is also a nice handy summary of the Hands-Off CEO book.
Perfect. And you also have a podcast too, right?
I do. Yes, the Hands-Off CEO Podcast. Thank you for reminding me. All the same name, the Hands-Off CEO.
There you go. You can't forget it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we'll list all those links in the show notes as well, so you can go and check out the amazing work that Mandi and her team do. And it's been such a pleasure talking with you today. I really appreciate your time and all the valuable insights you've shared.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrea. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Take care.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and review, and we'll catch you on the next episode. If you're looking for more content or resources in the meantime, check out our website for information, blogs, and our I've Got a Spreadsheet for That series. That's thecashflowcfo.com. Again, thecashflowcfo.com. We can't wait to hear from you.